Happy Monday. Welcome back from the weekend. It's the NFL Showdown Strategy Show right here on the Stochastic YouTube's channel. LA Chargers, New York Jets, 3.5 point spread, 39.5 point total. Should be a relatively fun game to break down here, especially now that Palmer's on the IR. Does Quentin Johnson finally start seeing the work? 6 targets last week, 15.5% target share, whatever. Better than we had been seeing, but they got guys dropping like flies in that passing offense for the Chargers. That's going to add an interesting wrinkle. Breece Hall against a modest to bad run defense for the Chargers. We're going to talk about all of it right here on the Showdown Strategy Show. Happy to have you guys with us as always. And as you know, coming up after this, NBA Strategy Show. Big slate today and then no games tomorrow. I don't know why they're doing that, but they are. The NBA scheduling has been so dumb this year. It's like 13 games, then 2 games, then 9 games, then 3 games. Give us a little balance. But anyway, we're here to talk football. Dave Loughran with Matt Gajewski. What's up, brother?
Not much, man. Excited for the game tonight, as usual. Busy as ever, but coming off relatively unexciting DFS week. There was a lot of low-scoring game environments mixed in with some shootouts. Real-life football, it was pretty good, though. Some of those endings, the last-second comebacks by like Stroud and Tampa Bay, those were some pretty good games.
CJ Stroud's the real deal, man.
He's playing really well, really well.
What do you have, 470 yards and 5 touchdowns or something? I don't know the exact numbers, but those are eye-popping numbers. And look, I know Tampa Bay is not this same, brick wall defense that we saw in that Super Bowl year and even years surrounding that, but they're not like, it's not the Bears defense, it's not the Commanders pass defense. He picked them apart. I bet if you went back and looked at the leading receiving numbers from yesterday from, wide receivers and tight ends, I'm pretty sure like Nico Collins, Tank Dell, Noah Brown, Dalton Schultz would probably all be in the top 15. It was absurd.
Yeah, I know. At least at one point, I did not look at this after, the Sunday night game and stuff. But at one point late in the day, it was Noah Brown and Nico Collins, I believe. They were 1-2 among receivers and just fantasy point production. That may have changed. I didn't look at the updated numbers, but I think just speaks to your point, how ridiculous CJ Stroud has been. And I don't know. I don't really consider that receiving core to be very good. The offensive line has been absolutely decimated all year, which to me makes it more impressive what CJ Stroud has done with no offensive linemen and no really good receivers to throw to.
Tank Dell, this is PPR, DraftKings scoring. Tank Dell, wide receiver 1. This is including tight ends. Dalton Schultz, 3. So not even tight end 3, just 3 overall. Noah Brown, 4. Nico Collins, 20. Yo, that is insane. Tank Dell, Dalton Schultz, and Noah Brown are 1, 3, and 4 in, pass catcher fantasy production in week 9. That's nuts.
Yeah, none of them were expensive. I didn't look at the Millie winner. Spoiler, it wasn't me, but I'm sure that it was the CJ Stroud double that took that down.
Yeah, I had a rough week. I didn't get to much, if any, Houston stacks. I mean, that you needed that to win.
You definitely needed it to win, yeah.
I went, cheaper elsewhere, and they weren't bad, but they just weren't even like. I think I had a bunch of Watson, Amari Cooper, David Njoku stacks. Some weeks that doesn't kill you. This week you just needed this massive. When you're getting three guys with 30 plus fantasy points, and it's Tank Dell, Noah Brown, and Dalton Schultz, you don't have much recourse outside of that. But
yeah, I mean, Njoku and those guys, they had good games. It was just the nuclear games for Houston is what you needed.
Can I tell you who the top 10 fantasy point producers were for this is nuts. Just listen to this for the main site. Listen to who's up there. Tank Dell, CeeDee Lamb, okay. Dalton Schultz, Noah Brown, Amari Cooper. Number 6, Cade Otton. Number 7, Jonnu Smith. Number 8, Cole Kmet. Number 9, Jake Ferguson. Number 10, Taysom Hill.
Tight ends, man. Double tight end week.
What the hell?
I don't know. I knew it was a really bad slate going into it. We only had 2 good quarterbacks on the entire slate. And one of them, Lamar Jackson's team, scores 37 points. He finishes with 12 DraftKings points himself. And then you just had Jalen Hurts. I mean, it was gross all around. There was no one really to pay up for. Maybe CeeDee Lamb, if you were getting contrarian, it was him and AJ Brown or a running back. But yeah, it was a greasy week, if you will.
It was a greasy week. A very greasy week. Anyway, you ready to close out the week with another greasy game? 39.5 point total. Jets, Chargers. The Jets have played pretty well, by the way, against good quarterbacks. They haven't played all that poorly against good quarterbacks. They limited Patrick Mahomes significantly. They got the win over Hurts. I mean, I'll say a million times, those drops were terrible, but they didn't have Sauce Gardner or DJ Reed in that game. They beat Josh Allen in week 1. They played pretty well against good quarterbacks. I'd say Justin Herbert's a pretty good quarterback. I think he's a little overrated, but that's talk for another day. I don't know, Matt, given how many bad quarterbacks there are in this league right now, Justin Herbert looks pretty damn good, but the Jets have not played poorly. They've got a healthy defense right now. I'm not just writing them off by any stretch. Surely we're going to have to look at Chargers skill players because there aren't that many. And it's Zach Wilson on the other side of this game as your signal caller for the Jets, but not a particularly easy matchup on the road for the Chargers.
No, it definitely won't be. The Jets, the strength of their team is defense right now. They have to win games. Like last week's game was one of the most atrocious games I've seen of all time. But they're just going to have to play these sort of like high variant games, play slow, try to win through Breece Hall, and then hopefully just rely on that defense to allow the opposing team limited production. So whatever Zach Wilson gives you can maybe be enough. I still think there's concerns with both teams. I'm worried about Breece Hall and the offensive line for this Jets team. They continue to sustain injuries. Not that the matchup is difficult by any means, but kind of goes both ways. You have this matchup advantage over the Chargers D-line. Your own offensive line is getting banged up repeatedly. It seems like Breece Hall, he gets 17 carries, 16 of them are slamming into the back of the offensive line for 2 yards, and then he gets a 70-yarder. So one of my questions is like, how sustainable is that and how long can he keep this up? It's like early career Saquon almost.
That's exactly what it is. You're going to need the big play. You're simply going to need the big play, but he can do it. He can definitely do it. I mean, Breece Hall is one of the most explosive running backs out there. And then you have Austin Eckler on the other side, though. First of all, we know that when healthy, the second, and I agree with you, the injuries that have piled up, Connor McGovern dislocated his kneecap, I think, right?
Yeah, jeez.
Do you know how brutal that must feel?
I don't. I have never dislocated my kneecap. And man, I do not want to ever sustain something like that. Poor guy.
And they lost AVT earlier in the year as well.
Yeah, he might be their best lineman too. Dwayne Brown is out. Not that that matters, but I mean, they were so desperate they had to go sign Dwayne Brown. Now he's, I don't know, not going to play. I mean, this is a complete disaster.
How's Mekhi Becton playing this year?
He's in and out of the lineup a lot. He keeps getting hurt too. He's active tonight though. It looks like full practice.
Well, I only asked because you remember in the preseason, he was like one of their only guys that was playing in one of the only possible starters playing in the preseason. He wasn't even guaranteed a starting job coming back from the injuries and being out of shape. And then he got thrust into the starting lineup at left tackle.
Yeah, he's not having a good year. He has one good game, and it was against Denver.
Okay, and that's not surprising.
He's having career worst numbers across the board.
They don't have much recourse, though.
They really do not.
You know what? Here's the reason with Breece Hall that I don't care as much. I don't disagree with you at all that this is going to be maybe a run into the line spot, but he's so explosive and it's a showdown slate, and their defense is so good, particularly in the passing game, that the volume might just be enough. And when they can't get him going on the ground, they just give him targets. And like we saw that last week, right? Against the Giants, where they won 13-10 in overtime against the Giants team that had -9 yards passing on the game. He had 12 for 17 on the ground. They couldn't get anything going, but 6 for 76 and a touchdown through the air. Despite all of this brutal efficiency, and much of which is not his fault, he still had 3 straight games of 20+ fantasy points.
Yeah, you bring up a good point with the volume. Efficiency doesn't matter when you have just crazy volume. We've seen this with Saquon Barkley through a few games now. I don't think Breece is going to touch, like 40 or anything like that in terms of touch count, but he's going to get close to 20. Dalvin Cook is essentially not playing anymore. Wisely, this is the only way they can really win games with Zach Wilson under center. So yeah, I don't dislike Breece Hall by any means. Just wanted to bring up that point. It's at least something that's concerning, probably more of, like a main slate concern in Showdown where we just don't have a lot of choices.
I find it funny too that Dalvin Cook was reportedly upset and wanted a trade.
To who? The New Jersey Generals?
The funny part to me though is what did you expect when you signed with the Jets? They just took in a decent offense, one of the best running backs in the league, like one of the most talented running backs in the league. What did you think was going to happen when Breece Hall got healthy? Unless my guess would be that they kind of sold him a bill of goods and were like, no, Dalvin, this is going to be a timeshare no matter what.
I think they probably did say something like that.
For sure.
But Dalvin's been so bad. Like, plans got to change, buddy. Like,
we were good.
We were planning this assumption, or we were planning this timeshare on the assumption that you'd actually be halfway decent.
Right. Like, hey, pal, you got to hold up your end of the bargain as well. Yeah, exactly.
It's like, I don't know. Like, where could Dalvin go play right now where he'd actually get significant time?
All right, before we break and by the way, guys, happy to have you guys with us as always. We love doing this with you every Monday and Thursday morning. Hit that thumbs up if you haven't done so yet. It goes a long way for us. Atone for your sins here on a Sunday morning from the sin bin. Subscribe to the chat, dude. I'm bought in. I'm committed to the bit, brother. Subscribe to the channel as well, and don't forget, all of our stuff can be found in podcast form. All of our podcast exclusive content. And all of these strategy shows with shelf life, whether it's Apple Podcast, Spotify. If you guys are over there and you have a minute, would be super appreciative if you left a review and a rating. We love reading those, but if nothing else, they help us out a lot. So appreciate you. Did I say Sunday morning? I meant Monday morning. I thought I said Monday morning. Maybe not. Anyway,
I don't know.
It's okay. Hit the damn thumbs up. That's all that matters. Now you threw me off, Mark. Now I don't even know where I was going. Oh, yeah, let's have some fun before we break these games down. I would like to, apparently I did say Sunday. I believe that you guys know what I meant. So we're going to go team by team. We're going to take a look at the sims. Mike, make sure to run those sims if you can. Run them at 30%, 10,000 field. Okay. And just have that ready. Thanks. And we'll have the lineup generator. Matt and I will hand build a lineup too. See what we come up with. Let us know, chat, your thoughts on this as well. What team would he go to that would give him significant work? Matt? Like Arizona, but that doesn't count. What's the point of bringing that guy? Like, they want to lose games right now. They want to lose games.
Yeah, I don't know. Arizona just because Connor's out, but otherwise,
But
like
basically,
assuming
what I'm saying, is there a team that is mildly competitive? Because who?
no chance.
I don't think I mean, that's not the worst answer just because Tony Pollard's been pretty bad, but I don't think he gets a lot of work there. Sean said Houston.
Houston, yeah.
That's
Tampa
not a bad
Bay.
answer. Ryan back to the Vikings because they lost Cam Akers. Commanders aren't going to do it. They're fine with Robinson, even though he's not good, because Dalvin Cook's not good.
Yeah, I don't know. There's not many good options.
There really aren't. Javonte Williams looks fine in Denver. Miami wouldn't do it. Man, Joe Mixon. I watched a couple runs last night where he just put his head down and blindly just ran into defenders.
I love Joe Mixon. He's getting a little older and efficiency's definitely in decline. But yeah, he's one of my favorite running backs in the NFL, for better or for worse.
That wasn't a compliment.
I know.
I'm saying, what?
I said I know.
Oh, okay. Like it appeared that he didn't even look for holes on some of these. He's just like, it
has not gone well for Joe Mixon the last 2 years, which is sad.
The blocking's been terrible too, but
his whole career.
Yeah, he's never had good blocking. All right, let's talk about the Chargers, Matt. I don't want to start it off anywhere outside of this Josh Palmer situation. I think it's important and we need to talk about it. So Josh Palmer on the IR, Mike Williams, that sucks, man. You want to talk about being I'm a big fan of Mike Williams. I think he's one of the more fun players to watch, just circus catches every time he gets an opportunity. But Palmer's on the IR, still played 68% of snaps last week. Quentin Johnston played 70%. Then you had guys like Darius Davis. Fehoko had a touchdown. Like, hey, who the hell is that guy? But you probably knew. I was very unfamiliar with his game. What's that meme?
Went to Stanford.
What? There you go. What's that meme where it's like, I'm sorry, I was unfamiliar with your game or something? I know you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it was like Shaq or someone said that.
Yeah. What happens with Quentin Johnston today? Already 70% of snaps, but do we see the target share just become more consolidated now that, I mean, it's really thinned out behind Keenan Allen, really thinned out.
I think it has to. I just don't know where else you go with the ball. Obviously, Eckler is going to handle a large portion of this, but when we're talking about just pass catchers, they just flat out don't have any other options. So I think the targets probably rise for him. They're not going to be anything like 12 targets a game. He's definitely not going to challenge Keenan Allen, but as far as this slate, where he's coming in with a price tag below 4K, 3.6 on DraftKings, it's really hard for me not to see him with like 6, 7, 8 targets in a game like this. Or just who else are they going to throw to?
I don't think they're, and we also, you know what makes you feel, or at least me, a little bit more comfortable about that? Last week, we did see Quentin Johnston get integrated more into the offense. That's the difference. You know, leading up into those games, you're going, all right, is this guy? And I thought it was silly to just be like, oh, he's a bust. Stupid. You know, he's a rookie. Not every rookie is just going to be, you know, out of the blue Tank Dell or Justin, like Jefferson. I'm not equating the two, but Tank Dell was a guy that a lot of people thought wasn't going to contribute. I will say I have like 40% in best balls. So, but he wasn't involved really at all. He had seen 3 or fewer targets in every game this season, and then 6 targets last week. To me, that's encouraging, Matt, especially given that Palmer played 70% of snaps. It was weird because I think Quentin Johnston had like 4 targets in a row on consecutive plays, but still 6 targets, by doubled the most he'd seen in any game this season. I don't think he's overpriced at all, given that Palmer's out. I actually think from a pricing perspective, I think it's a pretty reasonable price point, like a very reasonable price point. It's a tough matchup, no doubt about it. You're going up against a really good secondary. But at this point, you might just have to eat some of that. We have him with a 11.1% leverage score, by far the highest on the slate. Oh, wait, he's 3,600 at flex. I had the captain price. He's 3,600 at flex. That, to me, honestly, it's a no-brainer, Matt.
Yeah, he's way underpriced for potentially the wide receiver 2 role in this offense. You mentioned everything. I'm not worried about him from a talent perspective either. He might be a bust, but it's just too early to tell. I think that people are very quick to judge these wide receivers that end up in crowded situations. Like the guys playing behind Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, and Eckler. What do we think he's going to? Tank Dell's playing with nobody around him. Of course, he's going to be better. He's a CJ Stroud, and there's no competition. Like Jackson Smith and Jigba's behind Metcalf and Lockett. Until Justin Jefferson went down, people were calling Jordan Addison a bust. Sometimes it's hard to carve out roles when you're playing behind elite pass catchers like Keenan Allen. I'm not going to be, I'm not going to be too quick to judge Quentin Johnson. I think he's the best price adjusted play on the slate.
By the way, that's why I love in fantasy drafts, taking your last round pick on guys that are being drafted into an offense that just has no clear number one. Sometimes it works. I mean, it didn't work with Mingo because Adam Thielen ended up being a clear wide receiver 1. It hasn't worked with Jalen Hyatt because that team is utter dog shit, but sometimes it does. And when it does, you go, oh God, all right. I got an absolute monster on my hands. If you drafted Quentin Johnston and Jordan Addison, in what they were going in like the 7th and 8th round, you got pretty lucky with the injury situations. You got pretty lucky, but that's okay. He's in a good spot and the volume should continue to tick up with those 2 guys on the IR. You mentioned he was playing behind Allen, Williams, and Eckler, but also Palmer's always been a reasonable wide receiver 3. So in hindsight, looking back and thinking that he was just going to be negated in this offense is also probably wrong, So take 2 of them out of the offense. What choice do you have? What are you doing with the rest of these guys, though? We can start with Keenan Allen, but then very interested to hear where you're going with these, Darius Davis types and some of these other, real tertiary options that many people don't even know about.
I think I'm going to play most of the value on the New York side outside of Quentin Johnson. Quentin Johnson, I think, is pretty close to, a stone lock on this slate. The only reason I think you get away from him is just ownership in large field stuff. But if you're playing small, single entry, cash games, he needs to be in there. And part of the reason why is he's so cheap and you want to be jamming like Keenan Allen, Justin Herbert, Austin Eckler. And when you use Quentin Johnson and maybe one other punt, it is pretty easy to do that. I want at least 2 of the Chargers studs in every lineup, maybe 3. I think the debate would be between one of the Jets guys like Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall versus a 3rd Charger. But I mean, these guys are all awesome. As far as kind of like splitting ties between them, I think Keenan Allen still is the best price adjusted play among the expensive Chargers. So much of the volume flows through him. So when Herbert has a big game, like what are the chances Keenan Allen's not coming along with him or even eclipsing him just based on the PPR aspect of DraftKings scoring? So many times Herbert can have a big game, but so much of it goes through Allen that he's still outscoring Herbert. And then Eckler, he's a little expensive for my liking, being the most expensive guy on the slate and just so much of that volume going through Keenan. So if you force me to pick between the 2 of them, I would say Keenan. But again, I think my approach today is going to be trying to play at least 2 of these stud Chargers in every lineup.
I'm with you. The matchup sucks, but there has to be concentrated share of targets here. Man, let's look at this for a second. I just want to pull up. What do you think would be the best indicator of target share? I don't even know if we can use anybody as proxies here or anything. It feels like we just know, right? It should be, if we were looking at just a hierarchy of targets, it would be Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler, Quentin Johnston, and then the rest of these guys, right? So would you agree with that? Or would you say that it's another order among the top 3?
I agree with you.
Okay. My fucking father-in-law came to drop something off. I gave him the door code. My dog's going nuts. Can you hear my dog barking from upstairs?
I can't.
You can. Good thing these mics only pick this up. But outside of that, then you have, since there's no positional requirements, Donald Parham. Is Gerald Everett back? He's back. So
yeah,
you have Gerald Everett, Donald Parham. Is there anybody else here once we're talking about these guys? So take Eckler, Allen, and Quentin Johnston out of the mix. Throw in Darius Davis, Fehoko, Everett, Parham. If you want to say Stone Smart, go for it. How do you rank those guys? Because that's where it's going to get dicey.
I think Everett needs to be the first guy we talk about outside of the big ones. With Everett coming back from injury, I just think he's most likely to lead the tight end position in snaps. And then you might just get this logjam at the receiver position the rest of the way. I don't think any of them are going to be focal points of the offense, high target getters. But at least I think Everett has something projectable in terms of what he's going to do on the field. The problem is he's expensive, so $5,600 isn't a price I particularly like. And from there, I mean, it's probably going to be Donald Parham after that. Even when we saw the two play together, Parham still has a role, especially in the red zone where they like to throw the ball up to him. I don't really like playing any receivers beyond Quentin Johnston, though. And one of the reasons is they're projected to get back Jalen Guyton tonight, who hasn't played at all this year. He's not in the DK player pool, so you can't even consider him. But this is a guy that's played considerable amount of snaps prior to the injury. He's been on IR all season. But I think he probably just comes in and plays right ahead of like Simi Fehoko, all these dusty Darius Davis types. Like Darius Davis was drafted out of TCU to be a field stretcher. That's exactly what Jalen Guyton does. And then Stone Smart, I think the only reason he had 39 snaps is because we didn't see Everett last week. But yeah, pretty dusty down here. If you made me pick between these really ancillary guys, it's the tight ends, Parham and Everett for me.
Is Guyton even in the player pool?
He's not, but they activated him.
Oh, okay. If you mentioned that, my fault. I'm a little preoccupied here.
Oh, you're all good, dude. He's not in the player pool, but the Chargers did activate him.
Okay. Yeah. She's guarding the house up there. I have to have some respect for it. Yeah. Are you comfortable with going Herbert and then a bunch of pass catchers for the Chargers? Because we still haven't talked about some of the cheap options for the Jets yet, but it's not like that's pretty with Zach Wilson at the helm.
It's not pretty, but I think it's more projectable. So we'll get there in a second, but you've got like 2 or 3 guys I know that are going to play. Whereas in the Chargers, it's like, all right, it's Guyton's first game back. How many snaps does he play? Because in the past, they've used him considerably. And I think they would just straight up, after seeing what they did with like Fehoko, Darius Davis, I still think they would prefer Guyton to these guys. But we don't know that for a fact. So maybe you could throw some darts on like Fehoko or Davis. I would prefer just going to the tight ends because we know where the ball's going. But you might end up with like a stone zero playing a Darius Davis or Fehoko if the Chargers truly prefer Guyton.
For
sure.
I
think it's really risky, and I think you get more security with the Jets.
A lot of familiarity with Guyton. You're right. That makes a difference. I wonder if they'll add him. They probably
I wish they
won't.
would.
Would you play him if they did?
Yeah. He's like a field stretcher too.
Yeah.
A role they clearly prioritize. They've had they sort of have used this in like a committee in the past where they continually draft like these field stretchers and try to hit one. Palmer kind of does this. Guyton does this. Even Darius Davis, like that's his profile. He just hasn't been able to get on the field yet. He's a rookie. Maybe he'll develop into it, but they prioritize that. So if Guyton, I mean, he's going to play, he's activated. I think there's a chance he gets a pretty decent snap share.
What other field stretchers do they have?
Darius Davis.
Right. That's it.
Yeah.
Fajoko's not your field stretcher.
He's not. Fajoko's like 6'4". He's big.
Yeah. Dude, I had no clue about this guy last week when I was watching. I thought it was a tight end when he caught it in the end zone.
Oh yeah, he's big, man.
He's
athletic too. He's like, the Chargers clearly prioritize, I don't know, skill sets at receiver. He looks a lot more like Mike Williams than any other prototype of receiver on this team.
He's 6'4", 218.
Yeah, he's a wagon.
Pretty big. Well, all right, Austin Eckler. If we're talking captain here, and we'll look over some lineups, we'll build some stuff out ourselves. If we're talking captain, where does he rank as far as captains go for you in terms of preference? He has a top play probability of 15.4% in our top single game and showdown plays tool, which gives you top play probability, captain ownership, utility ownership. optimal captain percentage, optimal utility percentage, leverage score, all of the stuff you need to make educated decisions going into these showdown slates. Allen's at 31%, Eckler's at 15%. So we have a pretty big disparity there, top player. Now, that doesn't mean at all that top play probability means they're a better captain, but in this sense, it does. We actually have positive captain leverage on Keenan Allen and negative on Austin Eckler.
Yeah, I don't know, man. One thing our tools do is they always have these RBs negatively leveraged, always. I don't know why, but I think part of the reason here is pricing, and it's a timeshare a little bit. Like, honestly, this is almost the fewest amount of like touches Eckler's seeded ever in his career. You look at the snaps last game, especially in a game that wasn't all that competitive. We only saw Joshua Kelly play 15 and Spiller play 8. There was a ton of snaps for Eckler, man. Like previously in his career, he's been like a 50% of the snap player when they've had certain backups. He's playing way more than that right now. So I don't know. I think he's captain number 2 for me. The only reason I think you could get away from him is ownership. But honestly, it looks pretty spread to me. I don't fully understand the negative leverage with Eckler or really any of the elite running backs our tools continually give us.
Is captain number 1 for you Keenan Allen?
Yes.
Okay. I don't, I'll tell you what, man, there's a lot of guys I like at captain today that I would be perfectly happy to get to. Quentin Johnston is one of them. I have no problem captaining Quentin Johnston. I honestly don't think a 10 target game is out of the realm of possibilities here at all. Might be, it might be the high end of it, but he's so cheap. And this is always a Chargers team that forces you to pay for players. Breece Hall's not cheap. Garrett Wilson's not cheap. I like Garrett Wilson at captain a lot too. Guy's got a 33% target share on the season. Who the hell else do they have in the passing game aside from Garrett Wilson? A banged up Allen Lazard? They don't really have many other guys. We'll talk about the Jets right now, but I really, Matt, I don't have a problem going. Now, obviously, if you're playing a lot of lineups, Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler, those guys at captain are going to make a ton of sense and could easily be optimal captains. Justin Herbert being another one, 7% optimal captain percentage, 10% top play probability. But I don't mind going to some of the cheaper guys here because it's not very often that you get a guy at Quentin Johnston's price point that could have a 25% target share that you can throw into the captain spot.
Yeah, if you captain him, you can pretty easily get 3 or 4 studs on this slate too. I like those builds a lot.
I like those builds quite a bit. Yeah. Well, do you have any interest in the backup running backs for the Chargers? You just mentioned that Eckler didn't really cede many opportunities at all last week.
It's Kelly if you're going there. I don't think price adjusted it makes a lot of sense given how much they've actually sort of thrown their chips in on Eckler of late. And part of the reason might be they just don't have as many pass catchers. But as far as Kelly goes, I think I'll be looking elsewhere in his price range. He's tough, man. I think I'd rather get to these tight ends. I don't know. What are you doing with Kelly?
I don't really have much interest in Kelly at all, honestly. He's been wildly unproductive. I know against Kansas City he looked good. I guess you could argue that he's better when Austin Eckler's in there. Clearly, Joshua Kelly as a guy getting bell cow opportunities is terrible. We've seen that on many occasions. You look back in week 1 where you go, man, maybe Kellen Moore's offense is going to look a lot different. They're just going to run the ball a ton. 4th highest run play percentage in the league after the first week. And then you've seen them start throwing more. You're getting like a few opportunities from him. He's totally touchdown dependent. I suppose you could say again, yeah, against the week 7 against Kansas City, he would have gotten you there for sure. He is cheap. It's not the worst play in the world, but he's totally touchdown dependent. Joshua Kelly needs to score if you're going to get there.
Absolutely. At his price, you're competing with, he's not that much cheaper than Quentin Johnston's.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
That's why I can't imagine I'm going to get a lot of Joshua Kelly. I don't even know if it's a smart leverage play, being like, oh, not less people are playing Kelly than Johnston. It still feels like Johnson is a clear play there.
I agree with you. I don't even think it's close. Even for leverage, like this might be more interesting to talk about. What would the like Quentin Johnson ownership have to be for you to want to make that pivot?
And for what it's worth, I do think his ownership will come up in our tools. Just throwing it out there. Quentin Johnston's ownership would have to be like 60%.
Yeah, I was going to say over 50 for sure.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, targets are more valuable than rushing attempts. We already know that. It's not like the Jets defense is just garbage. So assuming Joshua Kelly gets what, one target, if that, assuming that's the case, maybe 2 targets, but that's few and far between. Like, I think you probably project them around what, 1 target or so. And you're just relying on 5 to 7 rushing attempts. Give me what feels like minimum 5 targets for Quentin Johnston every day, every time.
Yeah, I agree with you. 5 rush attempts, I might bet the under too. I don't know. He did have one good run last week, though.
You might bet the under on rushing attempts
For Josh Kelly, if we set it at like 5 or something.
I love betting unders on backup running backs. I love it. Like on rushing yards and stuff. It's something I do often. Let's see if we actually have we don't have a rushing attempts. We have a rushing yard prop at 22.5. We don't have a rushing attempts prop. We might get one later. Who knows? Probably not. Anyway, anything else for the Chargers?
I don't think so. Kickers and defenses, I think, are live here. Anytime you've got Zach Wilson, I think you should be interested in the defense. I don't think the Chargers are going to come in super owned or anything. Kind of think the public rhetoric on them is that they're not very good, especially against the run, but neither Zach Wilson. You could definitely play them. And Dicker, I think he's completely fine. We mentioned outside of Quentin Johnson, there's not a ton in this mid-range, cheap-ish range for the Chargers. I think he's standing out a little bit more. Other players, not really too interested in.
All right, let's talk about the Jets. Before we do, though, guys, if you're still not on Owner's Box yet, I don't know what you're waiting for. We've seen those stochastic subs, stochastic YouTube viewers scattered across the leaderboards lately, and it is a beautiful feeling. Down from the nickel contest that we had a guy take the other day to the main slate big contest. Our boy Drew took down 20K last week, first place. We've had dudes shipping these showdown contests. And some of them don't even have our tools that we have over at Stochastic for Owner's Box, like the sim and the ownership and the player projections. They're just watching the videos. It's a $500 first match deposit bonus. It's super flex contests, meaning you never have to play a defense on the main slates. And it's an unsolved format. But more than anything else, they've been overlaying like crazy. I don't think there's any other way to describe it. You know, you don't go, okay, I'm going to go over to Owner's Box and stop playing on DraftKings or FanDuel. No, you go, I'm going to go over there as a complimentary piece. I'm going to supplement my play, and I'm going to toss some lineups into this contest that I don't know what it closed at yesterday, but it was 33% filled when we had like an hour and 40 minutes till lock, and it was 20K up top. So if you're not there yet, guys, link in the description. Turn your ad blocker off. There's something, if you have ad blockers, I think that link, you just need to turn them off. You don't need a promo code. All you need is the link. It might ask for a promo code, but you're not going to need it. You click that, you sign up, deposit. Like I said, if you have the means, $500 first match deposit bonus, a lot of overlay over there. Our boys here viewing the shows, using the tools, crushing it lately over on Owner's Box. And they also give you, this is another cool thing, $5 lightning lineup for free. This is not including the deposit match bonus. Also a $5 DFS contest for free. So there's an extra few bucks sprinkled in that you didn't have before in contest tickets. Check it out, ownersbox.com. Link in the description. Link in the description and in the chat as well. Just turn your ad block on if for some reason that's preventing you. But yeah, it's legal in most states and it overlays like crazy in a lot of weeks. Take advantage of it. All right. On the Jet side, here's how I want to start this. 2 things. Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall. We're seeing Breece Hall already dominate touches in the backfield, number 1. And then we're seeing Garrett Wilson dominate opportunities in the passing game. Why would he not? The dude's an amazing talent. It's so sad that he didn't have Aaron Rodgers this year because he's so good. But he's going to be on the field for, 90% of snaps every game. Breece Hall's going to get the large majority of work. Even it's funny because Michael Carter, the last 4 games, has outsnapped Dalvin Cook. I love Breece Hall. I love Garrett Wilson. I think both price points are reasonable. And I'm not supremely confident in this Chargers defense. Really concentrated offense here. I like those guys a ton this week, Matt. Even with all of the issues, all of the concerns, all of the poor quarterback play, I have one game to choose from. And I have 2 teams. I'm going to go to the 2 guys that I know, regardless of production, are at least going to have the opportunities.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think I prefer Breece to Garrett Wilson. It's tough for me, though. Garrett's a little cheaper, but at the end of the day, I'm not really finding a lot of difficulty getting to the studs I want. So Breece, I think, is a little safer in terms of what he's going to do on the ground. Still not safe. To rank like all the studs, I do prefer the stud Chargers over the stud Jets. I think there's just less systemic risk, better volume with that team. But yeah, the Chargers do not have a good run defense. Breece is a little bit reliant on those big plays, but if you were to find matchups where they're more likely, this is probably one of them. And Garrett Wilson, it's nothing but the quarterback play that brings him down. The volume's there. You just hope, 50% of his targets are catchable tonight. We'll see. We'll see what it is. I don't know. But again, our tools like Garrett Wilson more. This is always the case. They just don't like lead running backs for some reason.
I know. But you know what, man? You're right. Plenty of these targets aren't catchable. But listen to 3 of his last 4 games. 7 for 13, 100 yards. 8 for 12, 90 yards. 3 for 7 against Denver. That was ugly, but that was a big Breece Hall game. 9 for 14 for 60 against Kansas City. You're not seeing the massive yardage totals, but they are still finding ways to get him the ball. 13, 12, 7, 14, and 9 targets over his last 5 games. The volume that's not something that can be disputed. The volume is there. Listen to the targets on the season in the 7 games that the Jets have played. 68 to Garrett Wilson, 29 to Lazard and Conklin, 27 to Breece Hall, 13 to Carter, 12 to Randall Cobb, 9 Cook, Usama 6, Ruckert 5, Xavier Gibson 2. I mean, he has almost 3 times, not 3 times, sorry, like almost 2.5 times as many targets as anyone else in this offense.
Yeah, I mean, the volume is there for sure. To me, it's not like, do I want to play Garrett Wilson? It's where do I want to play him? Who am I leaving out to get him? Because I think when you compare him to Eckler, Keenan Allen, he's not quite as safe. So to me, it's like this is a larger field tournament play. If you're playing him in like smaller field and cash games and stuff, I think he's a much better flex than captain. He has the ceiling. I just think he reaches it less often because of the quarterback he's playing with. Whereas Keenan Allen and Eckler, like these guys have superior safety. I think even Herbert too. So large field tournaments, that's where I'm at with Wilson. Completely fine play. Just a little riskier than the 3 Chargers up at the top, in my opinion.
We talked a lot about Breece Hall already, so I don't think we need to dive too much deeper into that. But the volume in the passing game to me is enough to just solidify him as a guy where I go, okay, efficiency stinks. This offense is no good, but he can break one on the ground or in the passing game. I'll take my shots. I think I like Garrett Wilson a little bit more than you do, because I like knowing that even if they're not getting the home run plays, he's still live for 7 receptions, which, on a single game with 39.5 point total, that can take you pretty far, especially given that the Jets defense is good. I don't think it's any guarantee that all of these Chargers go off. The question though is, well, number one, are you confident or willing to go with Zach Wilson captain lineups? Because it just feels disgusting.
It does feel disgusting. And anytime I have these feelings with the player, I need to look at our tools to kind of ground me and keep me sane. He has the 2nd highest leverage score on the board. I kind of thought this might be the case because they priced him way down for the quarterback position. He's like not that much more expensive than some of the backups. And he's going to have the ball in his hands every play. He's definitely not safe. He definitely doesn't feel good to click, but man, DraftKings did a great job pricing him where we need to think about this. I don't know if we need to. Definitely wouldn't do it in cash games because I didn't really have a problem getting to the studs. You have Quentin Johnson and some of the other value plays, but man, tournaments, he's actually looking pretty intriguing here.
Okay.
Like, were you surprised to see him second highest positive leverage score in the tools?
A little bit, yeah.
Same, but I think it's all pricing. Like,
I was
just
going to
cheap.
say an $8,800 Zach Wilson, or what is he, 13-2 in the captain spot, sixth highest priced player. That's why I'm not as surprised. And it's not a soft matchup, but it's not the toughest matchup.
Definitely not. I mean, yeah, I don't know what else to say, man. Like the whole thing is pricing. He stinks. Matchups not hard. They just price him at a point where when you have the ball in your hands every play, and yet, I mean, they're going to throw the ball a decent amount. Like, we just need to consider him. It's a pricing thing.
You do. It's gross, but I get it. If you're doing that though, when you're talking about, all right, well, who else am I going at on this team? But obviously, I think you can play Breece Hall with Zach Wilson. I think surely you can play Garrett Wilson. You should with Zach Wilson. But I have no problem with Breece Hall just given his involvement in the passing game. But then you start talking about Allen Lazard. He's questionable. We'll see if he plays. He's going. Look, if nothing else, Allen Lazard's going to be on the field a lot if he plays. That's literally the only positive attribute with Allen Lazard is he'll be on the field. Aside from that, I have zero confidence here. And also he should have the second highest target share on the team. It's going to be a steep drop off from Garrett Wilson to Allen Lazard, but those are the positives. He should play a lot. He's the clear wide receiver too. And he should get, 4 to 6 targets. All right. You can do worse than that. You wish he was a little bit cheaper than he is, but I don't think what's his price? What's Lazard's price point at? 52 seems about reasonable. And then it's Tyler Conklin. He's going to be on the field a lot. But then what? Xavier Gibson, Malik Taylor played 23% of snaps. Who the hell else do you go to for the Jets?
I think probably Randall Cobb, to be honest. He didn't play last week, been practicing. Prior to that, Randall Cobb had a very healthy snap share. I don't think targets are going to be there for any of these guys, but yeah, I mean, 55% of the snaps prior to the injury for Cobb. Gibson was at 11. Yeah, I just don't know. Malik Taylor, he hadn't played until last week. So to be honest with you, I don't feel confident about any of these guys, but if you force me to pick one, just give me this Stone Min Randall Cobb. Like, take the potential snaps and let's get out of here. We're not spending any money on him at least. Whereas the other guys, not that they're expensive, but yeah, man, I don't know. When I don't feel good about these guys, I just want the guy that will play the most at the cheapest price, which to me seems to be Cobb.
Minimum salary?
Yeah.
God, it's disgusting though.
It's really gross.
Listen to this. By the way, for me, it would probably be Conklin. I don't hate Conklin here. Randall Cobb, excuse me, 12% targets per route run. Been targeted on 12% of the routes that he's run. 0.21 yards per route run this season. How is that even possible?
Aaron Rodgers wanted him, and Aaron Rodgers gets what he wants.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Xavier Gibson, 8% targets per route run. So targeted on 8% of the routes that he's run. 0.16 yards per route run for this guy. Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall are at over 2 yards per route run. Nobody else is even remotely close. Tyler Conklin's at 1.6. That's why I'm saying he's actually not that bad in my opinion. I don't think Conklin's that bad.
I think Conklin's fine. If you're including him in the pass catcher discussion, I think he's probably my second favorite price adjusted.
He's my second favorite.
Yeah, because I don't like Lazard's price.
No, it would be Garrett Wilson and then Conklin for me. I would rather, and I think Steven mentioned it earlier in chat, why not just take the $2,200 savings and go to Conklin over Allen Lazard? I don't think there's any distinguishable difference between the two of them tonight.
I agree with you. I would much rather have Conklin price adjusted than Lazard.
Are there any other just no-namers down here at the bottom of the barrel that in a large field tournament you might take some shots on?
So Malik Taylor and Xavier Gibson are players that will see the field a little bit. I'm worried about them both just because Cobb is back. So we don't know what the snaps are going to look like for these guys. I don't think they're going to be high. You do have a couple other tight ends that mix on the field, CJ Uzama and Jeremy Ruckert. They use a lot of double tight end sets in this offense. So that's another risk with those wide receiver threes, and maybe why you could look to an Uzama or a Ruckert. Both are thin, but we're just talking about the large field, Millie Maker style dart throws that you might consider. I prefer the tight ends over those dusty receivers.
By the way, Baldy in the Oath said he shipped a Showdown last night. Thanks, Drew Sample. What
Nice.
site, Balt? That's awesome. Congrats, dude. What site? Garrett, shipped the $50 single entry last night just from your video. Always love tuning into you guys. This is awesome, man. Love it. Michael Durbin said, always love to see the wins. Me too, man. Hit us up at Stochastic Hall of Fame. We'll throw you in the Hall of Fame segment. Also, if you're rocking the Stochastic avatar, you get the free month of all of our tools, $200 value. Anything you want. If you want the NBA package, NFL. Also, all of our tools in the description. We're going to pull the lineup generator up in a second. I'm telling you, that is the best, like, low entry point. Maybe you're just getting into tools, or you don't have a lot of time, or you're playing with a smaller bankroll. You like playing like the 20 max entry stuff at lower stakes. That is by far the best thing you're going to find. We'll show you in a minute. But if you're looking to go full in, the Sims tools are game changers, whether it's NFL or NBA, whatever package you want, they're game changers, right? What it's done is create a tool that, this is why people were so upset about it, is to create a tool that the pros have been doing for a while and make it available to the public. That's what it is. It's an amazing tool. I use it every day. I've been using it for basketball with the late swap tool, which is amazing, for NFL, all of that stuff. You get our ownership, our player projections, the top stack tool, boom bust, premium Discord lineup, everything's there. So if you want, links in the description to all of our tools. Also, Matt, I think there's 2 more days left to get the lineup generator for NBA for less than $5, $4.99 for an entire week of the NBA lineup generator. I know it's an NFL show, but if there's ever a better time to dabble, Matt, tell me it's not right now. Then you can get your foot in the door for less than $5. It's way less than $1 a day. Play every day of basketball for basically nothing and see how this tool works out for you. I'd say it's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, man. And the NBA has a million slates. It's a great time to take advantage of this. You get to play a ton of slates for NBA, especially when we've got some greasy Showdown NFL games. Maybe you just want to turn your attention to that.
$4.99, link in the description. We'll show you how to use this for football, but you'll get the point. It's the same thing for basketball. It's gonna change the way you look at things, especially if you're relatively new to the space, new to tools. This is one way to do it. Did we miss anybody from the? Well, you know what? We haven't talked about Carter and Dalvin Cook yet. It's gross, as you would say. It's greasy all over the place. But is there anything to be said here about Dalvin Cook and/or Michael Carter, who has been out snapping him and appears to have usurped him in this offense, at least from a snap count perspective?
Yeah, I prefer Carter, and also not just the snap count stuff, but Carter's on the field a lot of times in like third down situations, hurry up situations, runs a ton more routes than Cook. So neither of them are likely to score a touchdown, but Carter, I think, is more likely to fall into 2 to 3 receptions or something that could give you more rep value than like Dalvin Cook's 2 to 3 carries, if that makes sense, just with receptions being worth more than carries in the long run. Also, he's the stone minimum, so you could play him down there too. But yeah, I prefer Carter.
I'll tell you this much. I prefer Carter over Cobb as well.
Yeah, I don't hate that. I think that's fine.
It's not like a strong lean. Yeah, so I'm not planting a flag here, but I think I would rather have Carter over Randall Cobb. I just don't know if Cobb has much left in the tank. I would prefer both of them over Dalvin Cook. At this rate, Dalvin Cook should be minimum salary with them, don't you think?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
He should be a rebate play. You get $200 if you play him.
Anybody else we haven't talked about?
I don't think so. We hit the backup tight ends, the cheap receivers. We talked too much about Randall Cobb. I think that about covers it.
What about, well, first of all, kickers in both of these spots are more than viable. This could be a very low scoring game. in East Rutherford, sub 40-point total. I like both kickers in this spot. Would you captain kicker?
I would not. I never do it.
Okay. That's just a personal thing.
I don't think it's worth it. You look at the win rates. I know it's one like on a rare occasion, but I think personally people just do it too often compared to the amount of times it wins.
Yeah. Who was the optimal captain when the Chargers played the Bears last game? Because Chargers playing back-to-back primetime games. I know Dicker had a big he had 16 fantasy points. I wonder who someone in chat.
I do not remember.
Someone in chat can tell me who it was, because they blew him out. But I don't mind the Jets defense at all either, though. Just to get that on record, $4,200 Jets defense, healthy enough. I mean, it's not the first player, it's not the first spot going into my lineups, but I have no problem at $4,400 or 42. Do you?
No, I think a lot of people might shy away from them against Herbert. But a lot of times all you need is to face offenses that pass a lot. You want the opportunities for sacks and interceptions. They'll have that, and they're pretty good. So, yeah, I like the Jets.
Okay. Family Man said Dicker was the optimal.
That doesn't happen very often, but congrats to whoever won that night.
Yeah, I don't know if lightning strikes twice in the same spot here. We'll see. All right. Mike, is the lineup generator working? We good? All right, Matt, we're gonna build a lineup real quick. Then we'll see what the lineup generator has for us. I'm gonna start at captain, and I'm gonna go Quentin Johnston. I want to see what we can do here with this price. Kind of alleviate some things down here in the 5 flex spots. If you play Johnston at captain, you have almost $9K per player remaining.
I'll take Keenan Allen.
All right. Well, then I guess I have to take Herbert, and we're probably not playing Eckler.
So to Breece Hall we go.
Garrett Wilson.
Oh, perfect. Let's play Michael Carter.
Oh, shit, man. There's a way to get, so just go mega chalk on 5 and then a $200 Michael Carter.
Because I don't hate it. We have 1,000 left over.
I know I'm saying, but then you're playing Breece Hall with Carter. That might not be a spot that many people are getting to.
I don't think so.
I don't hate it. Mike, pull the lineup generator up. Guys, by the way, Adam and Josh coming up next, NBA Strategy Show. Stick here on the channel. Different stream, of course, but right here on the channel. All right, go to the lineup generator. I say we play this with normal projections. I don't know if we need to boost. So I don't know if we need to boost anything. Do you? I think this could be a pretty competitive game.
Yeah, let's just run a normal.
All right, so all lineups. For those of you guys wondering, you can make these adjustments if you think the Chargers play with a lead or the Jets play with a lead, or it's just a super low scoring game. Go with standard projections, Mike. See what we get here before we go. And like I said, if you guys wanted to try this out, links in the description and in chat. All right. Wilson, Garrett Wilson, Alan Lazard, Eckler, Everett. I can't read that. Hold on. Quentin Johnston, Zach. Oh, okay. Double stack Jets, Matt, with Eckler, Gerald Everett, and Quentin Johnston. That's it. See, I like that.
Yeah, I think it's a great contrarian lineup. How many people want to double stack Zach Wilson?
It's a good point. We have that projected nice optimally. We have ownership, not mega chalky, but not crazy contrarian. Go to the next lineup here. Let's see what we get. Conklin captain. Oh, man.
Cheapers.
But you can also see, guys, like when you're doing this, you can see if you look how contrarian that lineup is. You don't have to play something that insanely contrarian. You don't have to at all.
Still projects pretty well.
What's that?
It still projects surprisingly well.
I know. I'm just saying if some people like playing it a little closer to the vest, you don't have to. Wilson, Eckler, Hall.
Isaiah Spiller.
Oh, God. Quentin Johnston, Zach. One more lineup. We got to go. No. This is a good thing. You can discard the ones you don't like, Matt. Unless you want Darius.
Running this.
What's that?
I'm not running this one.
No. All right. Appreciate you guys hanging out as always. Yeah, Mike, you can throw the final exposures up there, see what we get. You can swap players out as well. If you love a build but want to swap a player or two and see how it projects, you can do that. NBA strategy show coming up next. Follow Matt at Matt_Gajewski, me at Laffy_D on the Twitters. We'll see you back here live before lock tonight. Basketball, football, and of course, Josh and Adam coming up right now on the NBA strategy show. Peace.